Okay, so I'm going to be talking about a lot of subjects today, so if you guys can hold your questions till the end, it will make it run a little bit smoother, but I'm happy to answer anything I can answer at the end. I won't be talking about a lot of products and lots of vegan ideas. I'm not actually a paid salesperson, I just talk about the things that I like, that taste good and that work well. And as I was saying earlier, I will be talking about a lot of subjects, but try not to be overwhelmed by all the different information. Just try and focus on the one thing, that when people choose vegan, they improve the world. So I'm not actually a nutritionist. I'm interested in nutrition, but what I will be giving to all you guys is a booklet about nutrition, and it's called Nutrition in a Nutshell, and it says vegetarian and vegan diets are the best, and it explains how and why they are. Also in there is all the books and the films that I'll be talking about today are listed in the recommendation sheets, and I also have a copy of The Higher Taste for everybody to take away, and some other free goodies. As I said earlier, I'm not a paid speaker, but there is a charity box if anybody has any spare change or would like to donate any money to Viva to help them with their campaigning, their own animal charity. Okay, I need to say from the outset that I'm not here to make anybody feel guilty today or make anybody feel unhappy. My intentions are to make people question, make humans question what they eat, and also to hopefully empower you guys from here on in. Okay, so what is one of the most cheapest and easiest ways to improve the world? And that way is to choose vegan whenever you can with your food and the products that you buy. Okay, so here's a little recap of how I got here today. So just over 4 years ago, I was a meat eater, and at the time I was really, I was sort of your average guy. I was quite lazy. I used to chase after football, chase after women, chase after beer, and all sorts of other things, and photography. And then I was just doing my average thing. I was on my way to work, and somebody offered me a recipe book, and information book that I'll be handing out later. And that was a eureka moment for me. There was all sorts of insightful and thought-provoking ideas in that book, and the main one, the eureka moment for me, was that I don't believe that human beings need to or have to eat living beings. So from that point on, there was like this, it was a massive change that from that day forward, I never looked back. And so I started off, I was like, psychologically I'm interested in vegetarianism because it's an interesting concept, and I think it's the right way to be. So I started off pescatarian because I found it easier for me. And then my friend came up to me when I was living with him, and he said, "You've chosen, you say you're vegetarian, but fish are animals too?" And I was like, "No, they're not." And he's like, "Yeah, they are." And then it took me a little while to realise, but actually, yeah, fish are animals as well, so I couldn't eat them as well. And then gradually, my thought process evolved again. So as well as the fish, I thought, actually, I can't eat the milk and the cheese as well, because they come from animals as well, and that doesn't align with my outlook on the world. And so now here I am today, eating a vegan plant-based diet. There's several benefits that I personally felt from choosing a vegan diet, and some of them include I have more energy to do things. I'm more of an active person. I get better sleep. I sleep better than I ever have. I've lost fat from my body. I haven't lost weight, I've just lost fat. I sweat a lot less. When I was younger, I used to sweat a great deal, and I used to have to wear 2 t-shirts to cover up the amount that I sweated, so now I sweat a lot less. And I'm starting to find that my sense of smell and my sense of taste are vastly improving. Now when I eat food, I can really start to taste it, and when I smell things, when I smell like a fresh flower, I can really smell all the deep smells that come with that plant. Okay, so one thing that really sticks with me are quotes. So there will be several quotes during this talk, and what I will be doing as well, so for you guys, I've given a copy of all the quotes that I used to take away from you, so if you want to look at them again. So I will start with this one from my friend Melanie, and she said about 2 years ago, she said to me, in a world where we as humans don't have control over a lot of things, choosing and controlling what you eat is one of the most empowering things you can do as a human. And I think that's really, really true. It's very true quote. Okay, so the period when I started changing to vegetarian, I personally call it the waking up process. So it was a point when I was starting to wake up to what was happening in the world, like the true realities of where my food was coming from and stuff like that. So now what I've done is I've created a YouTube channel to collect the talks and films and other music that are associated with what I call the waking up process. So if anybody wants to check it out, it's on there. As well as the other quotes, I've also included my own quote, which I created about just before Christmas last year, so here goes. It's time to start asking questions about our habits, our ethics, our traditions, and of our humane civilization. When we realise they need to change, we have to take action. Okay, so we are given lots of different information and ideas about nutrition that are just passed on from one person to another, which aren't really connected to proof. And so sometimes I'm confronted by people and they give me information about protein or calcium, but it's just hearsay. So the actual definition of hearsay is information which cannot be adequately substantiated, a rumour. And so there's lots of different hearsay out there. So there's hearsay about meat. Meat is the only way to build muscle. Calcium, milk gives you strong bones and strong teeth. Well, actually, there's lots of information that says, there's lots of support saying that milk actually is degenerative to the human body and actually causes osteoporosis to human beings. Also, there's the hearsay that all vegans are anemic, and that's not actually true. Any human on any diet can be anemic, not just vegans. Okay, so there's many reasons why people choose to go vegan, and they can be sorted into three main groups. So we have animal welfare, the environment, and human health. And for me, they are all important. They are all reasons why I choose to be vegan. But everybody's an individual, so some people are more concerned with animal welfare, some people are more concerned with the environment, but it's each down to the individual. Okay, so I talked a little bit about that book, so I'm going to just go into some of the many things that triggered off thoughts in my head and made me think about what I was eating. So one of the things that I didn't really know much about before was that there's carcinogens in meat, and also that some farmers do what is called cannibal cows. So they grind up some cows and then feed them back to other cows, and then the humans eat the cows. And for me, it was quite a weird and strange concept that humans would do that and feed it to humans. So that was just another sort of supporting reason not to eat meat. And also there's immense environmental damage that happens through animal agriculture, and actually it's more sustainable and you can get a larger yield by growing vegetables instead of livestock. Okay, so I've got another quote. The meat industry spends hundreds of millions of dollars lying to the public about their product, but no amount of false propaganda can sanitize meat. The facts are absolutely clear. Eating meat is bad for human health, catastrophic for the environment, and a living nightmare for the animals. And that quote comes from Chrissy Hind, who was part of the Pretenders. Another quote that's actually in the book as well is from Linda McCartney, and she said, if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everybody would be vegetarian. We feel better about ourselves, better about the animals, knowing that we are not contributing to their pain. And that is, I think it's an awesome quote. It's so true. If slaughterhouses had glass walls, if you could actually go to a slaughterhouse and take pictures and experience what actually goes on, I think everybody would definitely be vegetarian. And I personally would. I'd like to do a campaign where I go and promote making glass-walled slaughterhouses. Okay, so the higher taste stopped at vegetarianism, so it was a really interesting, fascinating book, but maybe for religious reasons it stopped at just vegetarianism and carried on using milk for food. But I personally couldn't be biased about the animals that I was consuming, so I had to go to vegan. So for me, human beings don't need or have to use animals to live. So there's been many documentaries and books that have all supported my choice to go vegan. And one of the big ones is Making a Connection, which is actually going to be in the cinema tent later on at the end of the day. And Making a Connection is a collection of different vegans from all walks of life. So there's a new mother, there's a nutritionist, an MP, athletes, chefs, student, farmers, and researchers. They're all vegans and they're all promoting how and why everyone should be vegan. Also within that is the reality. So there are clips of inside slaughterhouses and stuff to talk about to show what's really happening in those places. So up here, you can't quite see it from there, but basically it's hundreds of baby chicks that are male, and unfortunately because of their sex, male chicks are killed at birth, and for me that's unnecessary just because of the type of sex. And it's not just sexist towards male chicks, the meat industry is quite sexist towards women cows. In my eyes, the milk industry and animal like cows are almost slaves. Well, no, they are slaves for humans. Okay, so we as humans are inundated with statistics and numbers, but so when I say to you guys that every year in the UK we slaughter 2 million cattle, that number, some people may stick in their minds, but for me it just sort of washes over with all the other millions of this and millions of that. So what I've done is I've calculated that every minute of every day in the UK alone, just for cows, so not taking into consideration the sheep, the pigs or the hens, just in this one statistic, every minute 3 cows are killed. And so I made a cup of tea a couple of months back, and that cup of tea took me 3 minutes for the kettle to boil and for the tea to brew. And in that time that it took me to make a cup of tea, 9 cows have been killed. So every time I make a cup of tea now, I use those 3 minutes to go, okay, is there something else that I can do to reduce, to completely wipe out that 2 million, because it doesn't have to exist. Okay, so sustainable and sustainability are regularly used words, and not many people know. I personally didn't know the true meaning of it. And so the actual true meaning of sustainable means able to be sustained, and also it means conserving an ecological balance by avoiding depletion of natural resources. And I'll be filling you guys in a little bit about how the animal industry is not sustainable, but if anybody wants to find out more, Tony Wardle has done extensive research into why livestock of animals is not sustainable, and also how destructive it is to our planet, and he's giving a talk at 4 o'clock if anybody is interested. And the next one. Okay, so here in the middle I have an illustration of a cow, and this is one example of what animals, the gases that animals emit. So cows burp out methane and they fart out CO2, and also they go to the toilet a lot. They have a poo, lots of poo, and that poo needs to go somewhere. So sometimes it ends up in a poo lagoon, which is just a huge, like 2 or 3 swimming pools just of rotting feces. And eventually, sometimes that's filtered, but other times it just goes back into our water tables, and then it gradually comes around in the water cycle and comes back to humans. So it's not sustainable, and it could be another way. I'm not a scientist and I'm not that knowledgeable of the entire area of science, but if you guys want to take that area forward, the documentary Meet the Truth is an extremely informative documentary about how destructive the animal industry is to our environment. Okay, so I've done a little bit of reading here and there. I've seen a couple of documentaries and films and spoken to other vegans for research, but I also spoke to somebody who works on a farm, and they used to work on a dairy and meat farm, a dairy and beef farm. And so I wanted to just find out logically which one would have the greater yield. So beef cattle are raised for 2 years before they're sent to abattoirs, and wheat crops only take 1 year to grow. So in this example of the wheat crops, you can have twice the yield on the same amount of land, and that's not taking into consideration the amount of water, the amount of food that it also takes to fatten up the beef. Okay, so the higher taste is a really, I keep saying it, but it is a really insightful and thought-provoking book. And one of the things that I was like, wow, that's amazing, is that actually world hunger doesn't have to exist. The problem is that there's greed and distribution. So there is enough food. We live on one planet, and there's enough food on the whole planet to feed everyone. But unfortunately, there's some greedy people, and other people don't want to distribute it across the whole board. And there's another reason as well. At the bottom is where we're currently at. So a lot of our food is grown for cows, sheep, and all the animals. So on the left we grow it, and we feed it to the animals, and then we feed the humans. But in my view, and sort of connecting from the higher taste, is we've got enough food, we just grow it first for the humans, and just feed it straight to the humans so everybody can eat food. Okay, so I've talked about a couple of books, and another book that is extremely insightful is a book called Eating Animals. And it talks about the psychology and the traditions that we as humans have and are sort of ingrained in us, and sort of allows the reader to sort of take a step back from that and really go, actually, do I need to do that? Is that right? If everybody else is sort of having a traditional Christmas dinner or a Sunday roast, is that right? Or could we just make up our own traditions instead? And so the book is, it's quite a cheap book, but it's actually rammed full of information, and he does a lot of extensive research and sort of interviews people of any diet to find out, and they're connected to the meat industry, so he gets a sort of insider's view of the people in that area. And he also goes into a lot of detail about the treatment that is inflicted on animals prior to their deaths, and talks about it in graphic detail and really reveals what it's really like. Okay, so I recently found out that there's a group of people in America. There's a group of doctors, and they're sort of the main figures are Dr. Campbell and Dr. Esselstyn and many others as well. But they all say that heart disease, of the list here, they say that all of them are actually preventable diseases. They say that heart disease, diabetes, stroke, prostate cancer, breast cancer, and osteoporosis are all preventable diseases. And if you go to the next one, they say that they're all preventable diseases through purely a plant-based diet. And so not just a plant-based diet, so a whole foods plant-based diet. So nothing that's been refined, nothing that's been processed, just pure food as it grows. And they say that's the best for humans. And not just preventing diseases, they say that it is actually reversing diseases as well. So the documentary Forks Over Knives is, all those things I just talked about is entailed in that documentary. And they also did the supporting evidence for those, what they said about preventing diseases. Partly comes from the China study, which was a huge cohort of people. So if you are interested, have a look up the China study and sort of extend your research further from today. Okay, so not many of you guys have probably heard of Gary Yourofsky, but I completely recommend watching his speech that he gives. And in his speech, he talks about somatic cell count in milk. Somatic cell count is actually just a posh word for blood and pus. It's what the companies use because they know that once you find out that it's called blood and pus in the milk, like me, when I go to a supermarket now, I go, okay, they got semi-skim, they got 1% fat. I wonder how much blood and pus is in there. But also, he talks about casomorphines, which is an interesting thing that humans can kind of be hooked on milk. So some people find it hard to take out milk from their diets, but maybe that's because it's addictive. The next one. Okay, in the audience, has anybody seen the documentary Earthlings? Okay, guys, I highly recommend it. I think it's a completely truthful and insightful documentary. I think it should be on TV every week. It's that powerful. But for future reference, remember the name Earthlings and please watch it. Also, I mentioned Beaver earlier, and they are involved in several things. And on their YouTube channel, they actually have undercover investigations. So the most recent one I watched was about TB, and it's really fascinating to see maybe what the other reasons, apart from the badgers, might be causing TB. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about books and documentaries, and now I'm going to talk about athletes. And Fiona Oakes is a marathon runner, and she's actually giving a talk later on this afternoon if anybody's interested. But she is an amazing and inspiring woman. She is a vegan. She runs marathons. She runs an animal sanctuary for over 400 animals. I haven't even ran a 5k marathon or run a 5k proper race yet. You know, I'm one step at a time. But she's running marathons, which is a lot more than me. And then she not just in the UK, what she's decided to do is take it to the hottest and coldest parts of the world. So last year she did a marathon in Morocco, and then recently she did a marathon in the North Pole. So the day that she was running, it was -28, and so they carried on doing the marathon, and then she won the marathon, and then she also set a new course record. So if anybody else wants to hear more about what Fiona's doing, she's giving a talk later. Another inspiring athlete is Tim Van Orden. He's a raw vegan marathon runner, and he says that he's had a massive turnaround with his health. He was really ill, and he says that it's the food that he was eating that helped him regenerate. And now he's over 40 and running marathons. Okay, so sport and making love are very similar things. So both of them, if they're done properly, I read in a book once that they should make you sweat. They both can be used as a form of exercise, and they basically, if they're done properly, they should release endorphins in your brain. Okay, so also another influence on me is music, and I've been spending more time with like-minded people recently, and then also starting to listen to more like-minded artists. So there's many vegan artists out there, and two interesting ones are Morrissey and Moby, and both of them are also interesting people in general. So Moby's also a writer and an artist, and if anybody's interested, check out their interviews, they're really good. So there's also lots of other vegan artists out there, and Maccabee is playing later on, so hopefully if you guys are still around, I might see you on the dance floor with Maccabee. Okay, so if anybody is interested in changing your diet, my advice is that sometimes cravings can happen, and even relapses happen. You know, it sometimes happens, but as long as you're on the right path, then that's the main point. And with motivation and willpower, anything is actually possible. And so, also you will get temptation. People will go, oh, do you want this cup of tea? And then you say, no, I'm not drinking milk. And then they go, no, it's just milk. And but you know, you can stand firm and go, no, I'm not drinking milk, so just can we move on now? Okay, so I've created this term, the switcheroo. So basically, it's a useful technique. So what you do, instead of drastically changing what you eat, one way is just to do the switcheroo. So you change say in the case of my friend, he used to eat mince, and then he tried vegan mince, like Linda McCartney's vegan mince, and he says it tastes the same, it's got less fat in it, and it's actually cheaper, so it's kind of like a no-brainer. There's also all sorts of, the rest of the day, there's all sorts of different tasters and inspiring and interesting foods. So, like me, maybe you're quite into pies. I'm a bit of a pie eater, I'm quite honest. And I quite regularly have Clive's pies. They're organic. They've also got like amazing flavours like curry and minty chickpea. Just check them out. Okay, so also I try to eat organic for personal reasons. I think that it's better to reduce the amount of pesticides that we as humans put into our body. So if anybody can, try to buy organic, try to buy local and fresh food, so it's going to have less air miles or travel miles. And also you get to see the faces of the people you buy the food from. And following on from what the guys from Forks Over Knives said, the less processed I think is better for humans. The less sugar or the less sort of refined foods that you put into your body, the better for your body. Okay, so what are the reasons to go vegan? The reasons are that it's more ethical, it's more sustainable, it's more economical, it's cheaper, it's beneficial to all animals. It's convenient, so if you cook in bulk and then put it in the freezer, or you buy frozen bits, or you buy convenience food, then it can be also convenient. Some people are actually allergic to milk and to meat, so that's another reason why it's more beneficial. It can help to heal, as the guys were saying earlier, or I mentioned earlier. And it tastes good as well. You guys are in the right place today to taste the tasty vegan food. It's the best on offer, and also for better all-round health. Okay, so what are practical steps you guys can take? So read the higher taste and make your own decision on what they're talking about. Try meat-free Mondays. Just one day a week, just go, okay, I'm not going to eat meat for the whole day. Do the vegan challenge for a month. Lots of people, it works really well for them. Donate, volunteer. There's all sorts of different vegan charities that you can donate to. Recently, over Christmas, I gave my family members donations to charities instead of, I'm not really into Christmas as a concept, so I thought I'll use the money that I have to give to charities instead, so I did that. And also, as I was saying earlier, watch Making a Connection and the best speech you'll ever hear. Okay, so get informed, go to viva.org.uk and sort of learn what's really happening. Get connected, befriend vegans. The Vegan Society has a large groups for local vegan groups, and yeah, Viva membership, you can keep up to date on what they're up to. They also have like a quarterly magazine that's fascinating, and get involved. Use any skills you have. I don't think I have many skills, but I'm quite good at handing out leaflets, so that's a skill that I use. Or say if you're like a writer, start writing about veganism. If you're a musician, start making music. Just use the skills you have to promote veganism. Okay, so positive symbols that are out there. When you go to buy something next, maybe look for the British Union for Abolition of Vivisection logo. It's like a little rabbit, which basically means the product you buy hasn't been tested on any animals to make it to the shelf. Also, Lush products are 100% vegan, and Co-op home brand toiletries are also not tested on animals. Okay, so why do I for nothing? Why do I come and do these talks? And so as I go along, people tell me things after the talks or weeks later. They say certain things like, there is no reason, Bertie, why I haven't stopped drinking milk. I'll just have to do it. And then last year, a couple of my friends came to Veg Fest, and they said, since seeing that stall about the dairy industry, I don't want to eat anything dairy anymore. We're ready to plan what we're going to take out of our fridge. Another family friend said, I went vegan and I've never felt better. And another of my friends said, since going to your talk, I tried being vegan for a month and I feel better. It also helped me realise that my stomach doesn't like dairy, so now I'm not going to eat it again. Okay, so the three main groups that I was talking about before are animal welfare, the environment, and human health. Okay, so I'll bring it back to where I started, the title, and the one statement that I'd like you guys to take home, and that is that when you choose vegan, you improve the world. And I'll finish with the quote that I created. It's time to start asking questions about our habits, our ethics, our traditions, and of our humane civilization. When we realise they need to change, we have to take action. That is the end of the talk, guys.
Check this, I'm sick of the tricks, sick of the purists. For ages we misfits, not talking about what day it is. The world has made us into capitalistic fatalists. I'm looking around the place, I can't find the folks that I came with. Without the real, true, left free people, please stand up. Tell me, somebody out there still hasn't given up. Well, is this living of hell, living up to the vision? And does this revolution stop at your coffee cup? Fuck this, I'm sick of this shit, sick of the business. Sick of the world tending to be my witness, sick of pretending to be this identity hypothesis, false metamorphosis. Pour my caution to the wind with total thoughtlessness. Oh yeah, no, is a hungry soul. So you think I'm there, but we need not fall. So face the demons stealing into these maddening days. Find them in the mind's eye, take aim and pull them away. We got to purify, from the inside out. We got to purify. We got to purify from the inside out. So check the bass, check check the middle, check the treble. But let's take this music to another level. With like pebbles dropping into the water, causing ripples for our sons and daughters. There's no borders, just all of us shouting honest. Today is spiritual this, spiritual that. Tell me I heard this. Present talking about a higher purpose. If they're talking about this shit, we gotta be living it in earnest, become impervious. So the holy wars will never hurt us. One love, one God, one word, one something. But loads of words that don't mean nothing. You can't fool me with fantasy circus, circling semblances of sacred service. Only want to know what is your holy purpose. I and I is a fighting soul. I am one man, but I am you also. Spread the wealth, slake the world's thirst. But now we can only save the world when we save ourselves first. We got to purify, from the inside out, from the inside out, from the inside out. Be angry, yes, be mad, yes, be shocked and on. Whatever the fuck you do, don't be bored. Yes, the beat don't stop, this hip-hop's not the end. Cities chock-a-block, but still got oxygen. Still got something to fight for, die for, something to live my life for. And I intend to be one of the survivors, but that's it, cuz the butt starts with us. No ifs, no buts, no matter who ya cuss. If you're not on the bus, it won't be enough to save you. If you don't reach the ocean, the tide won't turn in your favor. And all those leaving planet Earth will be like, see you later, see you later, see you later, see you later.